So you feeling ready to be a disciple? As I said to the young ones, it's not about hate as we know that word. It's funny, there are some young folk here from Leal, and I was telling them on Thursday when I was at their Mass that you can read the scriptures in English and you can come to know quite a bit about the story, but you will not know the story. It's from 2,000 years ago. You have to understand its context, its culture, its history. Like we were talking about, it's that cast the net into the deep after they'd been out all night, and I was making sure the kids understood that net was at least the size of a basketball field. It sits in 3 levels. It would be as high as a basketball hoop. It's a massive net, and you wouldn't gather that just from hearing net. It could, by the way, be as big as 2 football fields. So when he says to them, and by the way, you only fish it at night. So the middle of the day, he's not a fisherman, and he says, why don't you throw that thing you've just spent hours cleaning, by the way. You've been up all night, you haven't slept for an entire day. Why don't you go throw that out in the middle of the water? And Peter, I always say, through gritted teeth, must have said, sure, sounds like a great idea. So you have to understand. So we have to know that Jesus isn't talking about hate as we know that word. He's talking about how do we prioritize. Are we rightly ordered? Wisdom suggests that our plans are timid. The Psalm suggests that we have to order our days and that our basic inclination isn't the way of discipleship. And discipleship comes at a cost. That's all he's making. It's a very hyperbolic way to say it, isn't it? But he really needed to get people's attention. Hey, this is serious, because that word in the Semitic sense really was to take something out of priority. It's really kind of what it meant. Just you're reordering it. And that's why the second reading's so awesome. I always laugh when it gets read. You want to talk about, like, we speak of Catholic guilt, but Catholic guilt is just our imitation of Jewish guilt. And my Jewish boss, when I worked in the hospital, used to say, yeah, your Catholic guilt's cute. It's just imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. You like our guilt, you use ours. But here's Paul, right? What's he say? I, Paul, an old man. You can almost hear him coughing, right? And now also a prisoner. Did you know I was in prison, Philemon? Did you know? They put me in prison for teaching you the gospel. And as he pours out this letter, and it's just full of guilt. Yeah, I urge you on my behalf for Onesimus, a slave. It's his runaway slave. We know that Onesimus gets to Paul. Paul says, you got to go back to him. You have to make this right. But I'm going to ask of Philemon discipleship. I'm going to ask of him to rightly order who you are. And of course he does it, as I said, fairly guilt-ridden. Because then, of course, he points out, I didn't want to do anything without your consent, so that the good you do might not be forced, but voluntary. That's nice. I want you to choose it. I want you to do it because it's the right thing to do, not because St. Paul, the super apostle Paul, is telling you to do it. But it's going to embarrass Philemon. You're going to release a slave? It's going to cost him money. And in this culture, honor-shame was all there was. Still very strong in Semitic cultures, honor-shame. You'd be shamed to let him go, to receive him as brother, as Paul says. But that's our call as a faith community. Every family in this room already knows that. When a child is born into your family, I remember my oldest sister, talking about when it's one thing you get married and you get pregnant, but when that child shows up, all of a sudden you're like, oh gosh, we're responsible for this. And things reorder, right? I hear laughing. Maybe you had a similar moment. Oh boy, I'm in charge of this thing? Things get reordered, or they don't, and we've seen the fruit of that. But most people, I reorder my life, and couples reorder themselves to each other. And so we're already modeling that. We're already living it in many ways. That we take the opportunity to count the cost of discipleship in our lives. And it's not easy. That's what Jesus is saying. This is not easy stuff. That's why he spoke so strongly about it. It just won't work. Discipleship can't take root if your loyalties are divided. I'm half in, I'm half out. It's just not going to work. You'll eventually pick one or the other and you'll move it on. And so we have this opportunity, right? It's an invitation. It's not a command to love less. That's how hate sounds. It's an invitation to love rightly, to look at the order of things in our lives. And it just connects right to the Eucharist. Here's Jesus himself in the flesh saying, I'm going to rightly order my love. I'm going to follow the Father's will. And by doing that, I then produce for you that which you need. And then for us, we can receive that. We say the same thing. I want to reorder my love. I want to reprioritize that. And then we take his presence within us. It literally centers us on what it is we say we want to do. It's that simple, if you want. St. Augustine said it that way. Behold what you are and become what you believe. And the whole sermon was on the Eucharist. Behold what you are on your own, and then become what you receive. There you go. That's close. Become what you receive. Receive, believe. One letter. Cut me some slack. There it is. It's an invitation to reorder. Now, again, none of us like change, and so it's going to ask something of us, but that's why he speaks so strongly. St. Francis de Sales used to say, the measure of love is to love without measure. There it is, reordering constantly, every day, committing to that. Because it's not just the intellectual assent. Oh yeah, there's the order. 1, 2, 3. God, family, whatever. It's not that simple. It's something we have to practice every day. And we're fed for that journey from this Eucharistic table. May God be praised.